Hey gang, it's Marissa. Welcome to something a little different. I'm used to saying welcome to your power yoga practice. Today I'm going to say welcome to your yin inspired practice. So, why do I say inspired? I always say Pilates inspired, bar inspired, Ashtanga inspired. I don't adhere strictly to any of the modalities. I like to take what I think is useful from each of them and sort of just blend them into a workout or a yoga practice that makes sense to me. So I try to be respectful and say this is a yin inspired class. I am not an expert on yin. I have read kind of the book on it by Bernie Clark called Yin Yoga. And I've practiced with some people, some really great teachers, and I've also kind of studied a little bit with some teachers. But I am not by any means an expert on yin. I don't do the Chinese meridian work. I don't talk about that part of the practice. It's not really my jam. But if you want to know more about it and you want me to direct you to a teacher who I think is great, who this is really what he does, I am happy to do that. So just let me know. So why are we going to do yin today? I also sent you power yoga class because I know for me personally, when I sign up to do something, if I get something totally different, it's kind of annoying and frustrating. So I didn't want to just send you a yin if you were really looking for power yoga. So that's why I'm sending you one of the earlier and older power yoga classes that I filmed. So you have it, so you could do it, but then you also have the option to add this as well. So why are we doing yin? I am wicked sore. And yin is something that I like to incorporate into my regular activity. And I was thinking that I should probably introduce it as well as an option for you. It's a nice complement to more what's called yang or active styles of yoga, like power yoga. It's also a really nice complement to regular exercise and workouts. I am sore because I think this week I did some different exercises that I haven't done in a while. And what's very interesting about exercise is you could use the same muscle groups over and over and over and you don't get sore. But then once you hit them in a slightly different way, then you're sore. And that's kind of called shocking your muscles, right? So your body adapts. The body is unbelievably adaptive. So if you start doing squats and then you just regularly do squats, the body gets really good at doing squats. It's very adaptive to doing squats. But then let's say one time you try to do a front squat. So you load a bar and you hold it at the front and then you do a front rack squat. Whereas lately you've been just doing back rack squat. All of a sudden that front rack squat, you're hitting the muscle in a slightly different way and then you're sore. So that's shocking the muscle, and it's actually really good for your system. It prevents you from just becoming adaptive and non-responsive to exercise. So if you're looking to build muscles and you just do the exercises in the same way over and over and over and over, you have to kind of shock your system. And there's a couple ways to do it. You could change the exercise. You could add heavier weight, or you could do more reps. This is just a little bonus information. This has nothing to do with yin yoga, but I am so sore today that there is just no way I'm going to be able to do vinyasas. There's no way I'm doing sun salutes. My legs are killing me. I was doing sumo squats, and I'll show that to you probably next week, and with weights, and I think I just haven't done that in a long time, and I'm very, very, very sore. Haven't been this sore in a while. So yin yoga, let's get started. I have here 2 big pillows and a big folded up thick blanket. If you have a bolster, that's great. If you have blocks, great. Just grab your props. So pause this video, grab all your props that you have. I like to show what it would look like if I don't have props. So some people don't have any props in their house. So 2 big pillows, folded up blanket, you grab a couch cushion. There's a lot of props in this practice. We're gonna pretty much spend the whole time on the floor, okay? So I'm not even gonna take my socks off. You can, you don't have to. This is not a fast moving practice. I have my phone here. So, because I'm going to time our poses. We're going to hang out in each pose for about 3-ish minutes. So I like to just have my phone. So if you see me glancing at it, that's what I'm doing. So we're going to start off in a child's pose. So I am going to grab my blanket and have it underneath my knees for a little bit of support. And we're going to start with the knees together and reach the arms out in front. And just relax your head down. If the head doesn't reach, you can stack the arms or place a pillow or cushion. And just taking a couple nice deep breaths here. So in Yin Yoga, the idea of holding the poses for long periods of time is that you find your edge, and then after a little bit of time, you may find that you don't have any sensation anymore. And that's the point when you go a little bit deeper. And then you do the same thing. You find your edge, and then once your body adjusts and you don't have any sensation, you go a little bit deeper. So it's this constant exploration of the space between too much and not enough. You want to feel mild to moderate sensation at all times, but you don't want pain, okay? It should be something tolerable that you can hang out in for a while and not let it affect your breathing. So we've been in this child's pose for a little while. Maybe we start to open the knees to the sides, especially if you don't feel anything anymore. You want to start to make those little adjustments to start to get sensation in the body. And I'm going to be quiet for a lot of our practice. I'm just sort of laying the groundwork for you now. The idea is to notice the body and notice the mind's reaction to the body. Are you becoming impatient or frustrated or bored? What thoughts are coming up? What feelings come up? And we have a lot of time in these poses where we're very still and quiet. And so it's a really nice opportunity just to be an observer, sort of like a scientist of your own body and your own mind, and just see what's going on for you. So we're going to be here for about another minute. If you want to open the knees a little bit wider, feel free to do that, kind of walking those fingers forward, maybe tenting the fingers a little bit. You want to be very gentle in a yin practice when you come out of the pose. You can often feel a little bit fragile. So take your time to come out. And then we're going to get ready for a straddle pose. So I'm going to set my blanket down so I have something to sit on to tilt my pelvis forward. And I'm going to grab my 2 pillows. Or if you have a bolster, feel free to grab that. And I'm going to open my feet to the sides, open my legs to the sides, and I'm going to place my pillows or my bolster in front of me. So 3 minutes in this forward fold position can seem like a really long time. This is why we kind of want to ease into it. So when you're ready, maybe bringing your arms or your hands down to your bolster and just take a gentle forward fold. And getting to a place where you find some sensation in your body. So you want to feel a good stretch. And then you're just going to hang out there. You're going to breathe. You don't want to jump right to your end range of motion, right? You want to ease into it. Maybe slowly over time, the arms start to come to the floor. And then maybe the chest starts to come to your bolster. Maybe eventually you put the bolster off to the side and you're done with it, okay? But you want to ease into it, making incremental changes. There's no end goal here. There's no prize at the end of it. It's just being present with what is right now and breathing. A nice moment here to notice if there's anywhere where you're gripping your tension, you're gripping your jaw, your shoulders. Just gently invite those areas to relax. So we're about halfway into our 3-minute hold. If you feel like it's time to go a little bit further, maybe feel free to do so. Yin is not restorative yoga, so we are seeking sensation in our body. We are seeking to create some stress on our connective tissue, some stress on our joints, some stress in our muscles. So this is not just hang out and relax on the floor yoga, right? We are seeking sensation, but we're seeking mild to moderate sensation. Nice full breaths here. And then when you're ready, very slowly bringing yourself back up. Really take your time with these transitions. You can feel a little tender, a little fragile. Bringing the legs together, give them maybe a little shake out, just releasing that stretch. Sometimes there can be a feeling of boredom in yin, especially if you're hanging out in a pose for a long time. This is a nice opportunity just to notice that. What's going on there? How can we become more present with our bodies and our minds and our feelings instead of kind of shifting around and moving because we're bored and impatient, right? Why are we feeling impatient? What's going on? Just constantly making inquiry, right? We're going to set up for pigeon. So in yin, I believe it's called swan. All the poses have different names. So I'm going to help set you up here. So we're going to start in table, and we're going to bring our right knee to the right side of the mat and the right foot towards the left side. We're going to reach that left leg back. Now, maybe you want to take your folded up blanket and slide it underneath your right hip, okay? And you can also take your bolster or your pillows and bring them in front of you, right? And then very gently and easily kind of walk yourself forward. And then over time, as we hang out in this pose for 3 or so minutes, maybe eventually you slip that blanket out from under the hip. Maybe you let go of the bolsters. Maybe this right foot wiggles closer to your left armpit to make the stretch a little bit deeper. So just sort of judging what you need and where you want to be here. And then we're just going to hang out for time. So progress in yin is judged not necessarily by going further into a pose, rather it's judged by how long you can stay there. So once again, seeking mild to moderate sensation, and then adjusting the poses to increase or decrease the sensation depending on what you feel like you need right now. So we've been here for about 1.5 minutes. This may be a nice time if you feel like you need more sensation to release some of your props, to maybe adjust the pose, or maybe you want to come out of it. Maybe a minute and a half is plenty for you, and that is fine. So if it's time to come out, then just honoring that and come out of the pose. No big deal. That is part of the practice of listening to your wisdom, to your body, and backing off when it's time to back off. Taking a couple more deep breaths here. So when we come out, we're going to come out really slowly. Okay, so take your time. You're going to walk yourself up. We're going to shift the weight to that right hip and bring that left leg around. So let's just press the hands into the floor, bring the legs out in front, and just sweep the knees from side to side. That can feel nice, just letting go of that stretch, bringing that blood flow into that area that you just stretched out. All right, and then preparing yourself for your other side. So reestablishing props. You may find the sides are different. Maybe one side you need a prop, maybe another side you don't, right? So there's not perfect symmetry in the body. So just preparing yourself on this side. And then sort of walking yourself forward when you're ready. And one of the things I really like about Yin is that while it's great to do it as a full practice where you're really being mindful, you can come into these poses at any time. I've been doing them sometimes at night when I'm watching TV. I'll just maybe hit 1 or 2 Yin poses and hang out for a while. And it's just a nice way to kind of stretch out the body, to bring some stress to those connective tissues, to bring a little bit of healthy stress to the joints, which then encourages fluid to come into those areas, keeping the areas hydrated and lubricated, making sure our joints are moving to their optimal capacity. And nice deep breaths here. You're just almost about 1 minute into this pose. We're doing about 3-minute holds today. And since this is a video, you could always hold longer if you like, pausing the video. So we're about halfway through this hold. If it feels like the right time to let go of some props, feel free to do that. Maybe go a little deeper, maybe back off. Maybe you're done with this pose. That's totally fine too. So we have about 30 seconds left, making any final adjustments you need to experience mild to moderate sensation in this pose for the next 30 seconds. You want to make sure you're able to breathe comfortably throughout all these poses. If the breathing has become tense or labored, maybe we've gone too far and you want to back out a little bit. And then when you're ready, nice and gentle, take your time, bringing yourself up, and we're gonna bring that right leg around, shifting the weight to your left hip. All right, let's plant the palms. We're gonna windshield wiper the knees. Some teachers have said that, and Bernie Clark has actually said that sometimes coming out of the pose is more pleasurable than being in the pose. Like that's the nicest part of the pose. I tend to agree. That feeling of coming out and release is very, very nice. Okay, so we're gonna get ready for Sphinx pose. So this is gonna bring some compression to the lower back. It's gonna tighten those muscles. It's also gonna bring a little bit of compression to the spine. And then the idea is that it's encouraging fluid to come into that area and hydrate it. Be very gentle with this pose. We hang out for a while. If you have lower back issues, you're gonna wanna come into it nice and easy. I have a lot of lower back problems, but I do find that this pose helps. That if I do it regularly and I'm very mindful and gentle with my body, that it can bring a little bit of release to the lower back. So I'm gonna fold up my blanket the long way. This way I have something to rest my pelvis on. That just feels better for me. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. And we're gonna press the pelvis into the floor and then spread apart your fingers. Now, ideally they say you want a line from your shoulder to your elbow to your wrist, 90-degree angle. If this is too much and you want less sensation, walk your hands further out in front of you. It creates less of a back bend. If you want more, you can come into what's called seal pose, which is where you're gonna walk your arms out wide and straighten them. This is too much for me, so I'm gonna hang out in Sphinx. So taking the time here to draw your shoulders back and lift up through the crown of your head. You're pulling your feet away from you and you're pressing your pelvis into the floor. So once again, we want sensation, but we don't want pain. What's the difference? Sensation in a yin pose is an ache, like a dull, achy feeling. Pain is sharp, shooting, stabbing, those types of feelings. Definitely don't want that. So judging accordingly. I like to imagine here a lift from my navel all the way up to my sternum. So feeling that nice long line of energy. Staying with your breath, keep drawing your shoulders back. We're about halfway there. So if this has been enough for you, about a minute and a half, please feel free to come out. Throughout the pose, making those little micro adjustments to come in deeper or to back off, depending on what you need. So we have about 30 seconds. Now's the time to decide if you'd like to maybe come out or go in a little bit deeper, right? Maybe lifting up further or transitioning into seal pose, whatever you feel like you need here. So we're gonna come out nice and slowly. We're gonna bring ourselves down to our bellies and we're gonna press into our palms coming up onto the knees, and then very, very slowly, I'm going to walk my knees to this blanket, and I'm going to shift back into child's pose for about a minute. All right, so now we're just rounding out our backs, giving our spine that decompression. And then bringing yourself back up. All right, so we're gonna come into dragon pose, which is a knee down lunge, and then we'll transition from that into a forward fold. So I'm gonna start by coming into table. Once again, I have this blanket underneath my knees because we hang out for a little while. It can be a little sore on the knees to do that. And I'm gonna step my right foot forward. So if you have blocks, some people like to use blocks here. You can keep your hands on the floor, or you can walk your hands up your leg and let your hips sink forward. It's really just a matter of what feels good for you. Okay, for me personally, in this pose, for about a 3-minute hold, I usually start in this position, and then I eventually bring both hands to the inside of my leg, and then I sometimes end up on my forearms. So it's sort of this slow progression. Kind of see where you want to be. Maybe have a bolster or some pillows over here if you do want to come down to the forearms. Okay? And making those little adjustments and micro adjustments that you need to feel sensation in your left hip flexors. So that would be the front of your left hip and thigh, as well as the back of your front hip and thigh, and maybe even your glute. Be careful of your knee here. You don't want sensation in the knees. Sometimes I do fists if being on my fingertips is not comfortable. So many different ways you can kind of adjust these poses to make them work for you. If you're spending a lot of time sitting, which I know you guys really aren't because you are doing your workouts and you're active, but working from home, sitting at a desk, all that stuff, the hips get really super tight. So this is a very nice counter to that tightness. So we have about a minute left. If you want to make any adjustments, come onto the forearms, whatever would serve you here. Now would be a nice time maybe to play with that. Or maybe you're done with this pose and you want to back out. That's wonderful too. There's wisdom in that, in deciding that and you've had enough. There's real wisdom there. And I'm a firm believer that that translates into our lives, knowing when to make decisions that are best for us and having the conviction to make them. I think it starts here. It really starts on the mat and then it translates. About 30 more seconds. So we're really slowly going to transition. So this one I know for me is like that's a, whew, okay. That's a tough transition. Feels good though. So our next pose, I'm going to show you a couple different ways to come into it. One is sit back on your left heel. And then underneath your right butt cheek, you can kind of place a block or a blanket if you find that you will shift your weight over to the side. You want to try to kind of keep your weight level. Okay, and then we're going to forward fold. If this does not work for you, you can take a couple of pillows or blankets or your bolster, place it between your left heel and your butt and sit back on it. Okay, so now you're elevated and you're lifting up. So whatever version you're in, whether you're using props, you can prop up really high, right? Or whether you're sitting back and maybe putting something underneath your right hip, we're gonna forward fold. And once again, we don't come necessarily into our fullest expression or range of motion. You want to ease into it. Give the body time to adapt. We were talking about the body adapting before. Give the body time to adapt into the pose. And I'll tell you a little story while we're hanging out here for time. So my neighbors have recently started clearing out their land and having a whole bunch of trees knocked down, and then the roots and the base of the tree pulled out, and rocks dug up, and they're putting down some kind of foundation. I thought it was going to be a pool, but I think it's going to be an extension on their house. But the noise, I mean, one of the things that has provided me a lot of solace during this quarantine time is just being able to be outside in nature and spend time in my yard and on my porch. But the noise has just been like driving me bonkers. And I caught myself one day getting really angry. And then I was reminded of this analogy that I've heard before about yoga, which is when you're a yogi, it's like you're on a boat out in the water. And while there's water all around you and it can be calm or it can be tumultuous, you are safe and dry in your boat. And that idea that no matter what's going on in the world around us, we are safe and protected and peaceful in our vessel, because yoga says that that's who we truly are, which is peace. And so once I kind of tapped back into that, I was able to let it go, kind of let the noise go and be like, this is going on around me, but I'm calm and I'm safe and it doesn't matter. I mean, I still don't love the noise, but it kind of took the edge off of it. So that's just a little example for me in the last week of trying to practice my yoga off of the mat and bring it to real life situations, because, you know, if we don't catch ourselves, then, I mean, I wouldn't have done this, but who knows? That's when you start having fights with your neighbors and your art, you know, it just, things then escalate if we don't catch ourselves. We have about 30 seconds left. You may also feel this a little bit in the lower back, like I feel a little bit of a pull. A good pull, feel like I'm stretching out those muscles, but never want pain, obviously. So judging accordingly. And then we're going to bring ourselves back up. Okay. Whew. That was a good one. Kicking out that leg a little bit. All right, let's come to the other side. So we're going to start in our dragon. So stepping the left foot forward. And then letting those hips kind of come forward. And for some people, the only way to do that is to have their hand on their front leg, and that's fine. You can have blocks here. If you are feeling really loosey-goosey and you want to come all the way down onto your forearms or make your way there eventually, feel free to do that. Use a bolster. Use props. Props are here to support us to find sensation. So you want to use props so you can get yourself into a position where you can feel sensation in the targeted areas. Okay, so using them as you need. Staying with your breath. This is one of the hardest poses for me personally. My hip flexors, while I have hypermobility in my joints, so I'm very flexible, my hip flexors feel very tight to me all the time. And so this one is a tough one, but an important one. We don't want to shy away from the things that are mildly uncomfortable, right? Instead, sometimes making ourselves mildly uncomfortable on the mat or in the gym can then help us deal with our discomforts throughout our lives, right? So we have about a minute or so left, but you don't want to be too uncomfortable, right? Mildly uncomfortable. Safe but challenged, that's the goal. All right, breathing here. You want to make sure you don't have any discomfort in your knee, okay, this front knee. So always careful in that regard. We don't want pain in our joints. So backing off if you need to. All right, nice and easy. This can feel very fragile, so just take your time to back off. All right. So setting up for your forward fold, feel free to put bolsters or pillows underneath your butt. If you can sit back, I like to then take a pillow and put it underneath my left hip because then it helps me square out my hips. Okay. So you can also, instead of sitting on your right heel, move the heel over to the right if that feels better for you. And then coming into your forward fold. And then just hanging out here, just hanging out for time, relaxing into it. Oh, I should have mentioned another option. If you need it, take a bolster or pillow, put it in front of you, and then rest onto that. If you feel like you need a little bit of more of a lift for your chest. So we're about halfway into this hold. So making any of those little micro adjustments that would serve you at this time. Backing out if you need to back out and go into a little mini shavasana or child's pose. And then we're very slowly going to bring ourselves out. Okay, release, maybe kick out that leg a couple times. All right. So we're going to come onto our backs now. We're going to do 2 more postures. Okay. So the first posture is called banana pose. I didn't make that up. That's what it's called. So essentially, your body is going to make the shape of a banana. So how do we do that? It's a side body stretch. So we're going to walk our feet over to the right side of the mat and then sort of shimmy your shoulders over to the right side of the mat. So then until you feel kind of an opening into the left side of your body. So you're sort of making this curve, this C shape, okay? And then for some people, this is plenty. If you need a little more, take your left foot and cross it over your right. And you'll probably start to feel this. I know for me, I start to feel this in my SI joint, which is right where the your pelvis and your sacrum connect. So it's kind of this, I think it's at your sacrum, yeah. So it's this joint right there. You can feel it. It's kind of like a little knobby kind of area. And then if you want more, you can reach your arms overhead and then reach them over to your right. You can even reach for that left wrist with your right hand. Okay, so these are all just options. You want to feel sensation once again, but we do not want pain. All right, and so we'll hang out here for time. And you can just kind of keep wiggling over to the right with your arms or your legs if you feel like you need more. And you're trying to draw your shoulders towards the floor. So I know for me, my left shoulder keeps wanting to pop up. So just gently inviting it down so you're really making the stretch through the side body. So we have about another 60 seconds here in this pose. And so to come out of it, take your time, release your arms, walk your legs back to center. It might feel nice to take a moment and hug the knees into the chest, rock at the back a little bit, especially if you feel any soreness or fragility after that side body stretch. All right, and then we're going to try the other side. So extending the legs on the mat and then walking them over to your left and then walking those shoulders over to the left. Now this may be plenty, and if that's the case, stay right here, or crossing the right foot on top of the left. And another option is to reach the arms up, reach for that right wrist with your left hand, and gently give it a little bit of a pull over to your left. And then making those little adjustments you need so you feel sensation in the posture. So just a little less than a minute left in this pose. Noticing what's coming up for you in your mind. Noticing what feelings or thoughts are arising. Yin is a really nice opportunity to practice that observation, observing and letting go, observing and letting go. It's very quiet and slow. It's just a very different style of yoga. Nice and slowly, we're gonna release, bring ourselves back to center. I like to hug the knees in and rock out the back a little bit. Another nice option could be to windshield wiper the knees a few times on your back. So we're gonna come into one final pose. We're gonna do a twist to each side. So I'm going to invite you to grab any props that you like to have. I'm going to stack my two pillows right here. And then we're going to do a single leg twist. So I'm going to reach my right leg out, draw my left knee in, and then bring the left knee over to the pillows. And then reach out through my left arm. Now, if your left shoulder is popping up, you can grab a pillow or a blanket and place it underneath to give yourself a little bit of support if that would be really helpful for you. And then we're just gonna hang out here for time, about 3 minutes, breathing into the twist. Making any adjustments you feel like you need. Just about 30 seconds left in this twist. And then when you're ready, nice and easy, take your time coming back to center. Maybe take a moment to hug that left knee into the chest. Give it a squeeze. And then release. And then if you're using props or blankets, placing them off to the other side. And then hugging the right knee in. And then letting that knee come over to your left. Reaching the right arm to the right. You can prop underneath this arm if you'd like. And then just breathing into your twist, allowing yourself to make those little adjustments throughout the hold. to increase or decrease the sensation that you're experiencing in your spine, maybe your outer hip, your outer glute, maybe through your chest, all the areas where you might be feeling this twist. Holding for about another 60 seconds. If you've had enough and you want to come out and go right into Shavasana, which is where we'll be going next, feel free to do that. And taking your time to come out, maybe draw that right knee into the chest for a couple breaths. And then I'm going to invite you to make your way into your Shavasana. So using your props to support yourself. Lying on the mat, maybe legs up the wall. That could be a nice Shavasana choice. Wrapping yourself up in a blanket. Just getting really, really comfortable here in Shavasana. Just allowing your body to settle, bringing yourself to the rise and fall of your breath. Coming back to the practice of observing the mind, observing the feelings, being aware but non-attached, noticing but letting go. Coming back to that analogy of being on a boat with the water all around you, just like the thoughts, the feelings are constantly around us, other people, situations constantly around us. But we are safe in our vessel. We are safe with our spirit, the quiet peace. It is always there, always protecting and holding us, keeping us safe. And giving yourself the next few moments to rest quietly. And I'll call you back when the time is right. When you're ready, allowing the breath to start to deepen. Taking any movements that may serve you in this moment. I'm going to invite you to make a nice, slow, seamless transition up to a seated position, allowing this to represent the slow, seamless transition we would like to make from our practice of yoga on the mat to our practice of yoga off the mat. Bringing our hands to our hearts in gratitude for the lessons and blessings of our yoga practice, and for the time and ability to come together in community, even virtually, to share our practice together. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be peaceful and at ease. The light in me sees and honors the light within you. Namaste. Thank you, friends. I hope you enjoyed this yin-inspired practice. I hope it was useful for you and a nice little reprieve from our usual, more intense and vigorous practice. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well, everybody.